Hey, what's up? This your boy Big Man. You already know what it is, man. So let's get right to it. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Casanova 2 times. Now, Casanova 2 times is going through a crazy trial. And you should have heard something about it on the web, man. I got plenty of videos about this. It is a wild situation, and it's horrible to say the least for him and his music career, right? Because Casanova 2 times is facing a RICO charge, man. RICO charges stemming from a case that started about December of 2020, man, when everything on social media pretty much went wild for a lot of rappers. Now, Casanova 2 times has been in many headlines since then. You had the situation where, the indictment originally came down and they were looking for him. Then you had the situation where he turned himself in. And that story was crazy because allegedly he was on his way to Atlanta in a rental car and then turned it around and just said, forget it, he's going to turn himself in. Now, lately, everybody's been keeping up with the updates in the case and all the information that, comes out from the court case so far, man. And what we learned today is another one of Casanova's homeboys have folded. Now, what I'm going to be doing is basing this off of a report from none other than allhiphop.com. Now, what's going on in this story is probably a little bit of foreshadowing of what we might see in Casanova 2 times future. Now, I'm not putting that on him, but it doesn't look good to say the least. Now, before we get to the specifics of this story, man, do me a favor. Make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and man, let's get it. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, man, let's talk about Casanova 2 times in this latest development, man. So it looks like another one of his homeboys folded, man. It looks like another one of his homeboys is copping a plea, tapping out, and calling it quits, man. And I don't know, man. I think Casanova is going to be left with few choices, man, because usually this is somebody when they're copping a plea, it seems like they're already admitting defeat. They're just trying to get the lesser of all their charges, some type of minimum sentence compared to what they're facing, right? And Casanova, man, to be honest, if you look at his charges and what he's facing, it's like, man, it feels like he was pulled into this almost like YFN Lucci was pulled into his case. You know what I mean? It seems like they were just pulled into it for the publicity of the case and all that, man. Now, it's been widely publicized. The New York Post has done a lot of write-ups about this situation. A lot of the hip-hop publications have talked about it. But for Casanova, it's just been a dim, bleak look on his career as a rapper in the future. You know what I mean? His bond was denied 2 times, I believe. So, it's not looking good for him. No matter what he came with, they were denying his bond. And it looks like some of his homeboys are folding. This time it's the money guy they're saying it is. So let's get to the story. Now, the story starts off like this. The headline says Casanova associate that handled gang's money taps out. Now it continues by saying another associate of Brooklyn rapper Casanova has decided to take a plea deal after being charged in a RICO case last December. Now, December is when all these stories started to come out, right? You had so many people talking about this. It was wild because Casanova was a well-known and well-liked figure in hip-hop, man. He's blessed most of the major media outlets that do interviews. He's well-liked by, the Breakfast Club and all those folks or whatever. And dude was really on his grind and really just getting back and bouncing back from already being incarcerated. So everybody was looking forward and actually rooting on Casanova as an artist, man. Now, it continues by saying this. It says, another member of the untouchable guerrilla Stone Nation, an associate of Casanova, has decided not to take any chances with the government and has opted for a plea deal. So basically, the dude that they're going to be describing in this story said, forget it, man. I'm not even going to take my chances trying to fight the government in this case because either he probably doesn't have the money, the resources, or this is the best option for him in that long run. So he had to go with it. Now, just so you guys understand, this doesn't mean that dude is working against Casanova in this case. This doesn't mean that he's snitching. This doesn't mean that he's testifying against Casanova. It means that whatever his lawyers and him worked out with the court or the federal government as far as a deal, it's going to work on his behalf and he's just opting out for that plea. You know what I mean? Now, it continues by saying, in December of 2020, the feds unsealed a RICO case against 18 members of a gang, including Brooklyn rap star Casanova. Now, the gang that they're talking about is the untouchable guerrilla Stone Nation. Now, everybody listed in this indictment was allegedly a member of that gang. You know what I mean? Now, I hate to name gangs and stuff like that in these reports, but you know, when it's in there in the black and white, you can't do anything but read it, right? Now, there has never been any proof online that Casanova is a member of this gang. It's basically he's being, guilty by association based on some people's opinion. Not even mine, just by some people's opinion, because we'll know exactly what it is when the court case comes out, right? Now, the story continues and said the members of the Gorilla Stone were charged with racketeering conspiracy, large-scale narcotics distribution, firearm offenses, fraud, and murder. Earlier this week, alleged Gorilla Stone member Shanae Outlaw decided to reverse course and cop a plea. The government says Outlaw, aka Easy, was responsible for managing Gorilla Stone's finances. So this is allegedly the money guy. This is the guy who counts up the money for the organization, keeps track of the books, makes sure that people are paid. That's probably, depending on, they said in this article that it was a large-scale narcotics operation. So, he's obviously handling a lot of money if all that pans out. Now, what's even more interesting is the money guy ends up being the money girl. It's actually a she. Easy, and the person by the name of Outlaw, or Shanae Outlaw, is actually a female. Now, the story continues by saying this. It says, the gang's highest-ranking member on the street, Christopher Erskine, a.k.a. Beagle, frequently turned to Outlaw with questions about the gang's financial resources. So obviously, she was the person for even the highest-ranking members to turn to in order to get information about money that's on hand or whatnot, right? There's some real, power type of stuff, but interesting to say the least, man. It even sounds like the setup for power, Now, the story continues also by saying this. It says, through wiretaps, the government figured out Outlaw managed the sophisticated financial operations and that she had access to and knowledge of the collective resources of the gang. Outlaw also participated in a scheme to file fraudulent unemployment applications, and she also helped run a phony nonprofit organization called Determined Adults, exceedingly motivating peers into responsible entrepreneurs. And the acronym for that was DA Empire. So, man, this is very similar to some things we've actually seen in Hollywood, which is odd, man. Well, it continues by saying investigators maintain that the Empire is actually a common greeting amongst Gorilla Stone members. So the name and the acronym of the company, the nonprofit that she helped develop through, running the books or whatnot, is actually a greeting or something that they use amongst each other within the Gorilla Stone, man. Interesting to say the least, man. Wow. Now, this is going to make a great movie someday. But let's continue. It says, the nonprofit's purpose had nothing to do with community service, but was designed to take advantage of nonprofit grants to benefit gang members, including the gang's leader, Dwight Dick Wolf Reed, and his wife. Shanae Outlaw is scheduled to enter a guilty plea on September 13th, 2021 at 2:30 p.m. So far, Outlaw is the third member of the gang to accept a guilty plea. So they've had 3 people cop out so far. And they list the other 2 members here. Now, one of them, his name is Jordan Flo Ingram. He's scheduled to plead guilty next week at a White Plains, New York courthouse in hopes of receiving a less than the minimum mandatory or the mandatory minimum of 22 years in prison for assaults and operating a large-scale crack distribution operation. So they're saying that basically he was running a whole operation and he's trying to cop a plea for that to get less than the 22 years. Then you have another guy by the name of Stephen Chino Hugh, and it looks like he's also copping a plea, and it's due to a shooting that took place in July 2020 in New Rochelle, where they said he allegedly shot at a rival gang member. Now, Hugh, he's also facing 25 years in prison, so he's trying to beat that mandatory minimum of 25 years and get less time. Now, as for Casanova, he's pled not guilty to intentionally manufacturing, distributing, and dispensing drugs. And then he's also charged with possessing a firearm and furtherance of drug trafficking crime. Now, Casanova, who is being held without bail, is facing a mandatory minimum of 15 years in prison, man. So it ain't looking good for Casanova, but I think his attorneys might just be waiting it out to see with these other people who have caught pleas to see what kind of time reduction they get. Because to be honest, when you look at what Casanova is being accused of, compared to say like his crimes or his codes, however you want to say it, depending on what part of the country you're in, it's not as serious as they're being charged. It's like he has the smallest charge out of all of them. Similar to YFN Lucci. That's why I compared this to the YFN Lucci case. To be honest, man, it's like the rapper is almost thrown in there. I don't know. What do y'all think? Do you think the rapper is being thrown in some of these cases through, him already having something, they were already looking for him to arrest him in the first place, right? They find something to arrest him for, or he's either, associated with some people who are also being arrested or getting a RICO, and to have his name associated makes it go a lot further and makes it seem like a bigger case? Or do you think this is just, a coincidence, and the fact that all these rappers are getting RICOs is due to the company they keep, to be honest with you? Now, with that, this been your boy Big Man. Do me a favor. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And make sure you hit that notification bell, so that way you get a notification every time I drop this hot content. And we out of here. Peace.